Last night, I demanded answers. We will share that with you. Also, 3 more accusers down in Alabama. Now, my response is coming up later in the show. Plus, Democrats, liberals, and the media, they are finally now today having their day of reckoning when it comes to Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary and the many allegations of sexual misconduct, the mistreatment of women, because for decades, these accusations, they have dodged and been dismissed and downplayed by the left in this country, by the media in this country, and even worse, those accusers were smeared, slandered, besmirched, including by Hillary Clinton herself. And what is so inexcusable is that the Democrats and the media for 30 years did nothing to stop this from happening to protect women. Instead, they were complicit. They enabled all of this to happen. Those women all suffered. And now they lecture everybody else. We will expose this blatant, despicable, disgusting hypocrisy in tonight's breaking news monologue. All right, so with new allegations of sexual misconduct now swirling around U.S. Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore, the left and the liberal media, they're finally starting to re-examine what is their deplorable defense over the years, Bill Clinton's long history of disturbing sexual abuse allegations. It has taken almost 30 years for the left, the liberal, destroy Trump media, to finally start admitting Bill Clinton targeted women for decades with criminal impunity. Take a look at this headline from a liberal publication. A little late, The Atlantic, Bill Clinton, a reckoning. Feminists saved the 42nd president of the United States in the 1990s. They were on the wrong side of history. Is it finally time to make things right? Yes, it's beyond time. And then there's this op-ed from the New York Times that has the headline, quote, "I believe Juanita." But that's not all. Members of the mainstream media, they're even starting to realize that what Bill Clinton did was beyond disgraceful. His conduct should never, ever, ever have been defended in the first place. What do you see some of the tape we have for you tonight? Look at this tweet. Give him credit. Chris Hayes over at MSNBC. As gross and cynical and hypocritical as the right's, well, what about Bill Clinton stuff is, it's also true. Democrats and the center left are overdue for a real reckoning with the allegations against him. Take a look at what CNN's Jake Tapper had to say. Watch this.
The accusers of Bill Clinton back in the 90s were never given the credence and treated with the same respect that these women are being treated. And I think that there is something to be said about how society has evolved since then. But in addition, it's hard not to look back at that period and think, you know what, the media treated those women poorly.
Now, some of the media are coming to terms with what they did and what they said and how they covered it all up, because what they did, the things they did to protect Bill Clinton and discredit at a high level his accusers, is beyond indefensible. It is shameful. Let me explain. You're not going to see this anywhere else on television. Back in 1992, during the presidential primaries, remember the name Jennifer Flowers? She went public. She revealed she had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton. She even released taped phone conversations to deal with the allegation. What did the Clinton campaign do? They set up a war room and sprung into action. Their job to smear and discredit Jennifer Flowers and Bill and Hillary. Then they go on 60 Minutes, lie, deny the charges, and what did they do? They attack Jennifer Flowers' character. Watch this.
She's alleging, and is described in some detail in a supermarket tabloid, what she calls a 12-year affair with you.
That allegation is false.
When this woman first got caught up in these charges, I felt, as I felt about all of these women, that, you know, they've just been minding their own business and they got hit by a meteor. I mean, it was no fault of their own. We reached out to them. I met with 2 of them to reassure them they were friends of ours. I felt terrible about what was happening to them. You know, Bill talked to this woman every time she called, distraught, saying her life was going to be ruined. And, you know, he'd get off the phone and tell me that she said sort of wacky things, which we thought were attributable to the fact that she was terrified.
I'm assuming from your answer that you're categorically denying that you ever had an affair with Jennifer Flowers.
I've said that before, and so is she.
I've said that before, and so is she. They were lying. And because he later had to admit during a deposition, he finally admitted during the Monica Lewinsky case that he did, in fact, have that sexual encounter with Jennifer Flowers. And then there's Hillary Clinton. That was only the beginning of her attempts to smear her husband's accusers. To further attack Flowers, Hillary Clinton told Vanity Fair, watch this, well, if we'd been in front of a jury, I'd say, Miss Flowers, isn't it true you were asked by the AP in June of 1990 and you said no? Weren't you asked by the Arkansas Democrat and you said no? I mean, I would crucify her. Really, Hillary? Crucify her? And it gets worse. In his book about Hillary, Carl Bernstein, of all people, wrote that Clinton referred to Jennifer Flowers as, quote, trailer trash, and that Clinton undertook a, quote, aggressive campaign to go after Flowers. Years later, I did interview Jennifer Flowers, where she described her affair with Bill Clinton and how she feared for her safety. Watch this.
I regret very much that I have had to go through and the country has had to go through what it has gone through in the last several years. There were times when he wanted to be intimate, when Hillary would be close by, and I wouldn't, because I was more concerned with the circumstances. I personally feel that if I had not become public when I did, even though I had not planned it, that I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you now. I think something would have happened to me. I think most of the women that have been involved with Bill Clinton have told of situations where they were threatened. My home was entered 3 times and ransacked. That was a horrible feeling. That was, you know, that was pretty darn close. My mother received a threatening phone call that said your daughter would be better off dead. So there were a lot of things that happened over the course of this time that caused me to be very concerned for myself.
And she was smeared for years, and she had told the truth. Then there's Paula Jones. She accused Bill Clinton of confronting her in a hotel room and dropping his pants and exposing himself, and worse. Watch this.
We did some small talk, and then he started kind of getting a little comfortable and trying to he said that he loved the way my hair flowed down my back of my clothes, and he liked my curves. Then he leaned up and he pulled me up towards him, and he was going to try to kiss on me. And so then I tried to distract him again. I was trying to, and I thought, what am I doing? My mind is racing. I said, well, I may need to be going or something. And next thing you know, he pulled down he sat down, pulled down his pants, his whole everything, and he was exposed. And I said, I'm not that kind of girl, and I need to be getting back to my desk.
And she said that many times prior. In 1998, Bill Clinton ended up paying Paula Jones $850,000 in out-of-court settlement for her to drop her sexual harassment charges against him. And in a related case, Bill Clinton actually lost his license to practice law in Arkansas for 5 years. No, not many people in the media report that. And according to the New York Times, CNN, and many other outlets, longtime Clinton ally James Carville said this about Paula Jones, quote, if you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park, you never know what you'll find. Oh, he worked at fake news CNN. Paula Jones later said that there was no way that Hillary did not know that her husband was abusing women. Next, we got former White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Bill Clinton infamously lied about having a sexual relationship with Lewinsky. Remember this.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
Now, just like the other accusers, Hillary had a less than flattering nickname for Monica Lewinsky. According to a journal entry that was made public, Hillary's friend, Diane Blair, described Hillary's reaction to the Lewinsky scandal as, quote, well, she says to his credit that he tried to break it off, tried to pull away, tried to manage someone who was clearly a narcissistic Looney Tune, but it was beyond control. In an interview with Diane Sawyer in 2014, Hillary Clinton was given a chance to deny that she ever said that about Monica Lewinsky. And Clinton, well, interestingly, decided to decline a comment. Watch this. Oh, okay, sorry, it didn't show up. Now, next is Kathleen Willey. I've interviewed her many times. She's a former volunteer White House aide and accused Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct in 1993. I have interviewed Kathleen Willey many times about this encounter. This now gets worse and worse. Watch this.
No woman should be subjected to it.
But
It was an assault.
He assaulted you.
Yes.
He touched, grabbed, fondled, and kissed you against your will.
Yes.
And it's an allegation that is not made by one woman; it's made by multiple.
Many
women.
of us.
Now, Kathleen Willey would later slam Hillary Clinton for enabling her husband's behavior. And finally, there's the most serious, the most disturbing allegation against Bill Clinton. According to Juanita Broderick, Bill Clinton raped her in 1978 when he was the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas. Take a look at this. You described a scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, you better put some ice on that.
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door. And I've told my friend who came back and found me that I was sitting there crying and so upset at the time. And I felt like that the next person would be somebody coming through the door to get rid of the body. That's just about how I had absolutely
case. For example, Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, remember they coined the term bimbo eruptions to describe women who came forward, and there were many, many more. And George Stephanopoulos, he wrote in his memoir that in 1991, Hillary Clinton said, quote, we have to destroy her when destroying one of Clinton's accusers. Now, we did reach out to the Clintons for comment about all of this. Of course, they never got back to us. That's not surprising considering everything that they did, everything the Democrats and the media enabled and covered up. Almost 30 years. The Clintons over these years have been given a free pass by their political party and their friends and their allies in the news media, you know, the ones they colluded with in the last campaign. And up until just a few days ago, the media and Democrats viciously attacking Bill Clinton's accusers. Here's what they said about Clinton's accusers just last year in the 2016 election. Watch this.
A trio of women who say Bill Clinton made unwanted sexual advances in the 80s and 90s. Mr. Clinton denies it. Two of the cases were plagued by factual discrepancies.
When it was Bill Clinton's problem, almost in a moment, Republicans tried to make it an issue, and it didn't work. So why is it going to work 20 years later with his wife? I just don't see it.
And the issue of Bill Clinton's past is that fair game, and it would be if he were running for president, but he isn't. Hillary Clinton is running for president.
The big issue. I would like to apologize to those tramps that have slept with my husband. Maybe she could have said that.
Tramps that slept with my husband. Now, while it's nice to see that some in the press are finally, nearly 30 years later, coming around to acknowledge Clinton's actions, we have to ask, what took you so long? Where were you when these accusers were coming forward? Why did you trash and discredit these women on a regular basis? And I want to tell you another thing. Unlike the rest of the abusively biased news media in this country, I did go down, take this seriously, sat down with them, let them tell their stories before I made a decision in these cases. You know what? Why couldn't the press do the same thing? Here's why. The media has protected Democrats, people like Clinton, by enabling their abusive and predatory behavior for decades. And guess what? Countless women suffered as a result. So this is important as a history lesson. We are, here tonight. Where are all the apologies to those women, the Clinton accusers, attacked by the campaign, by that war room? George Stephanopoulos worked in the war room. James Carville, smeared by Hillary Clinton, discredited by the mainstream media. Isn't it about time they all had their day of reckoning? My answer to Judge Moore is coming up later. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera, conservative columnist Monica Crowley. This was last year they were still doing this. And the thing is, it was systematic because of their policies and their thing, and the sanctimony, the self-righteousness that exists today by some of the very people that enabled. They colluded with Hillary. They never brought this up with her. They never asked her why she was involved in all this behavior. That's recent. That's last year.
I want to lay out a challenge to all those on the left at CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, The Atlantic, all those that we have heard of and from over the last couple of days, now that it's safe, saying that Bill Clinton should be condemned, he should have resigned at the time, we should have spoken up. Here's my challenge. It's now time for you to put your money where your mouths are. Because if you don't, you're no better than Hillary Clinton, who always, when confronted with wrongdoing, says, oh, my bad, and now it's time to move on. No. Here is my challenge to them. You put your money where your mouths are. You all have platforms now. Give those platforms, give airtime and coverage to Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, Jennifer Flowers, any woman over the last 20 years who have been dismissed as fake news. You give them airtime, as much coverage as you're giving now to Roy Moore. You now have a chance to reverse your mistake. If you're telling us now that you made a mistake, now is your chance to fix it. And don't just give them a forum. Investigate what they've been telling us for the last 20 years. Really get into Bill Clinton's crimes and his sexual assaults. And only then will I believe your mea culpa at this point.
Geraldo.
You know, first of all, I think that Roy Moore's fate lies in your hands. And I look forward to your monologue about his case as we go forward, now that these 3 new accusers have come forward on the one hand and the document, the yearbook, is in question on the other. Now to Bill Clinton.
Well,
I feel
let's go to the Roy Moore.
Terrible guilt.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You say your thing. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that to suggest that the Clintons have not paid a profound price for the infidelity and the lying committed by the President Bill Clinton.
She was the president candidate last year, and they never asked her in the media, Geraldo. That was last year.
But Sean, not only was he only the second president in history to be impeached in 1998, he also, in 2016, cost his wife this election. If you remember the second presidential debate in October, after the Access Hollywood tapes had seemingly devastated Donald Trump's campaign, to then candidate Trump, beleaguered candidate Trump, stacks the room with the accusers of Bill Clinton, absolutely destroying Bill Clinton's credibility and, by extension,
you're missing the point.
His wife, the candidate.
If you have said on this program, Roy Moore,
my point is they have paid dearly.
Okay, excuse me, I disagree. If Roy Moore is unfit because of 40-year allegations, and you're right, more coming tonight, as the left has been telling us, isn't that the same left in the country that still voted for her a year ago? And how did they pay? She came close, in a sense. She really got killed in the election.
Your main point is a valid one and a painful one for those of us who defended President Clinton at the time, and who, let's face it, why did we defend him? Other than the fact that it was like the Cold War between the Democrats and the Republicans, you also had a situation where you had to fight against the people we opposed.
Slander.
And we had an arrogance about us, an elitism about us. These were regional people. In Carville's words, you drag that $100 bill through the trailer park and look at what you find. I cop to all that, and I think this is a teaching moment, a learning moment. This is a very big deal when it comes to sex charges.
Look, this is all about hypocrisy, right? This is the conversation we're having now. Democrats have been so effective over so many decades of circling the wagons when any one of theirs is in trouble. Ted Kennedy drove a car off a cliff in a lake, right, and killed a young woman, and he becomes the lion of the Senate. For 20 years, we've been told all of these Clinton accusers are fake news and that they're liars. The Democrats always take their agenda and protect it at all costs.
Selective moral outrage.
That's right. But, Sean, now we are in a different cultural moment. Sexual harassment, we know, is everywhere. So, therefore, the lesson that Geraldo was talking about, this teaching moment, should be the same standard applied across the board.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right, when we come back, media was complicit in dismissing Bill Clinton's accusers during last year's election and for the last 20-plus years. Later, I will respond. Judge Roy Moore wrote me an open letter. We'll get to that straight ahead. Hi, welcome back to Hannity. As we told you earlier, the mainstream media, they refused to listen to the many women and accusations of sexual misconduct against President Bill Clinton, even up and through the 2016 election, and Hillary's role in smearing and besmirching these women who made those allegations over these years. Take a look.
The rape accusation is decades old and discredited.
Only in the sort of the mind of some sort of movie writer of a third world democracy or dictatorship would you have a candidate publicly humiliate a former occupant of that office by parading all of these other people around as well.
It's Hillary Clinton who is the candidate here, not Bill Clinton. She was not implicated in any misconduct. She was not someone who was accused even of doing anything untoward with regard to these women.
No, she wasn't. She just helped smear the women. Joining us now with reaction from the Hill, Joe Concha, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Reaction.
Look, my objection to Roy Moore is that he has a long history of lawlessness, so that probably means that he also abused women breaking the law. Your interview with him was incriminating because he contradicted himself 3 times. You asked him about dating teenage girls. At first he said, I don't dispute it. Then he said, I don't remember it. Then he said, I adamantly deny it. It can't be all 3. When people can't get their stories straight, that means they're lying. But look, beyond that, look at his career. Twice kicked off the Alabama Supreme Court. He drapes himself in the Bible as if it elevates him above the law and allows him to defy federal
It's the legal thing
order.
that really irritated you about him from the beginning,
It did,
and now
I
this.
said it before the nomination process.
1 year ago, that was the media defending Hillary, ignoring her role in smearing of these women.
I want to talk about 18 years ago, when NBC actually spiked a report.
Juanita Broderick.
Juanita Broderick.
Remember we were wearing
free Juanita
Myers
pins, right? There was no Twitter, so you had to wear a pin on the air, right? And Fox News was just in its infancy, so you couldn't have a counterbalance. So whatever the big 3 networks said, and New York Times, Washington Post, that was treated as gospel. And the reason why I know that is because President Clinton left office with a 73% approval rating. All right, so we fast forward to 2017, and there's a Democratic senator from my home state that's on trial, Bob Menendez, and he's accused of cavorting with underage hookers in the Dominican Republic. Now, I'm going to quote the FBI because they just said this on Monday. Federal prosecutors said that they aren't convinced claims Senator Robert Menendez cavorted with underage hookers, widely seen as discredited, are false. In other words, they don't know. Yet this story,
you never hear
the
it.
Trial is barely getting any broadcast coverage whatsoever. So when people say, oh, come on, Joe, if this was a Democrat, the same thing would be happening in 2017.
I am arguing all of these years up to and including this past election year. Like I talked about Hillary Clinton. I talk about taking money from countries that practice Sharia, and as a matter of law, abuse women, kill gays and lesbians, persecute Christians and Jews. I brought it up so often. Nobody talked about that really but this show and maybe a few others. But I am arguing that the media has been complicit, and that even last year, oh, she had, she's an angel in all this. That never was true, because politics trumped the outrage that they're now showing today over, it's not just Roy Moore, over everything. So, in other words, I don't believe that they're sincere. Politics trumps what they are saying today. That makes them lying hypocrites.
And I guess when some folks are coming forward and saying, well, Bill Clinton has to have his day of reckoning now, perhaps they can say that because there's really nothing to lose. To bring that up during the 2016 election, that may mean problems for the candidate. Now, let's go after Bill Clinton and do what exactly? I mean, there's no legal course that can be done here.
No, it's easy. There are no consequences, as Joe says, because Bill Clinton's presidency is over. Hillary Clinton's career appears to be absolutely finished. She was complicit in covering it up. The media insulted, ridiculed, demeaned, and dismissed all of these accusers. It turns out they were telling the truth. We know Bill Clinton was lying.
How do we sort through allegations? Because if some of these allegations are true, it is mind-numbing. What Ivanka said today resonates with me. I have a 16-year-old daughter. It resonates with me. Somebody preys on a young child. You have a special place in Dante's Inferno in hell.
There are too many accusers against Roy Moore. Their stories are very specific and too detailed to be untrue.
40 years in public service. Does it matter? Like in the case of Juanita, she waited 20 years. I believe her.
It doesn't matter at all. Women wait for very good and legitimate reasons. They do it out of fear. Oftentimes.
I agree.
But all it takes is one or two to step forward and have the courage to tell the truth. Then that opens
that's like the Weinstein
for
effect.
Others to say, all right, it may be now okay for me to tell the truth.
But it's a Weinstein, the Kevin Spacey effect.
Oh, there's 1,000 effects because every day there's a different allegation that comes out. George Takei, for instance, even though he's pushing back strong on that, but yet, you know, it seems like you're guilty until proven innocent.
But legally speaking, the governor of Alabama does have authority.
She does. She has the authority to postpone or delay or even cancel the special election. The statute gives her unfettered discretion and authority to not only set the date,
would that be fair for the people of Alabama to get to the truth?
That's the problem. There will be a political consequence.
But it would be the right thing to do for the people of Alabama?
It probably would, because
until we get truth, answers, resolution.
Because voters are now handcuffed with an untenable candidate.
Real quick, you want to say?
I just want to see the handwriting experts now come forward, since Moore's attorney said, let's see the yearbook. Yeah, now it gets scientific. Now he said, she said anymore.
I had a handwriting expert on my radio show today. It said they can tell 100% certainty if they see it. That's interesting. They'll compare it to his writing at the time.
And they can do an ink test to see if it was
100%.
more recent.
All right. Yeah, that's right. So they have the forensic. There's forensics now. Absolutely. Right. All right, coming up, Democrats are desperately trying to undermine President Trump. We're going to show you the latest tactics, and you're not going to believe big breaking news as it relates to these stories about what has happened, Uranium One, the dossier, all these things coming up straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. As we have been warning on this program, the left, liberals are doing everything they can do to undermine Donald Trump's presidency, and now it has reached a fever pitch. Now, here's Congresswoman Maxine Waters earlier this week at the Glamour magazine Women of the Year Awards. Watch this.
I continue to say, impeach him! Impeach him! Impeach him! Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
Now, it doesn't end there. Today, a half a dozen Democrats announced that they would be filing articles of impeachment against President Trump. Really? What's this?
I'm proud to stand here with my friend, Congressman Gutierrez, with other Congress people who will be here in announcing that we're introducing articles of impeachment to remove President Trump from office. We have taken this action because of great concern for our country and our Constitution, our national security, and our democracy.
Here with reaction, Salem, nationally syndicated radio talk show host, our friend Larry Elder, also a friend, although I disagree a lot, civil rights attorney Darrell Parks. Darrell, can you think as a lawyer any reason for impeaching this president? Any evidence that you could cite that would warrant such a thing?
Sean, I'll just say this. I think there are many people in Congress, including even Republicans, who have strong concerns about this president and some of the things that he's doing.
You're a lawyer, you're an attorney. Can you think of anything specifically that would warrant the impeachment? High crimes and misdemeanors, sir.
Well, that's not for me to decide. I think there are congressional members who have serious concerns. I'm not asking you to decide.
Is there anything close to evidence? You're a lawyer. Help me out here. Counselor, is there any evidence that would warrant high crimes and misdemeanors?
Sean, I'll say
so the answer is no.
That's for Congress to decide.
The answer is no. So what we're watching is a lot of hateful rhetoric and politics. Larry.
You know, Sean, if the standard is this low, then there should have been several articles of impeachment brought against Barack Obama. He repeatedly said, after he knew it wasn't the case, if you liked your plan, you can keep your plan. We have Ben Rhodes bragging that the Iran deal was sold on the basis of a lie that there was this big debate between the hardliner Ayatollahs and the moderate Ayatollahs. There's no such thing as moderate Ayatollahs. Fast and Furious, Eric Holder is the first, and to my knowledge, the only AG to be found in criminal contempt of Congress for failing to turn over documents. We can go on and on and on. The fact is, these guys have absolutely nothing. Their agenda is we hate Donald Trump. They have no pro-growth agenda. Their agenda is this guy's a bad guy, so therefore side with us. It's sad. It really is. It's just sad.
Darrell?
But without question, I think Senator Corker's right. There are serious concerns about this president. Many Americans share those concerns. And I'll just leave it there.
Concerns? Concerns? And
Serious
therefore
concerns.
he ought to be impeached because there are concerns?
Well, you know, I think it's for Congress to decide.
Feinstein
At
said
some point, they'll have to... They'll make
Dianne
that decision.
Feinstein said there's absolutely no evidence so far of any... Dianne Feinstein says there's no evidence so far of any collusion whatsoever. She's one of the rational Democrats up there. What do you have? You've got absolutely nothing other than you can't stand Donald Trump for reasons that I find quite bizarre. When you consider we've had back-to-back 3% GDP growth. We've got a border security now where the border crossings are down almost 50%. We've got a Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. We've got regulations down now. Consumer confidence hasn't been this high in 25 years. $5 trillion in new wealth from the stock market. What's the problem?
Darrell,
What's the problem?
can you say that the president's done a good job on those issues like Larry just listed?
Well, let me say this.
How about answer the question. Did the president do a good job on those issues?
Honestly.
Counselor, did he do a good
fix
job?
health care. We need to fix health care. We need to fix health care. That's what we want him to do.
Oh, you mean Obamacare's broken promises about keeping your doctor plan and saving money? There were lies, right?
But we're hoping that Trump care will be better.
Were they lies?
So let's see it.
Counselor?
No, I don't think they were lies. I think many people did very well because of
All right, I wish I could do this longer. Thank you, guys. We have a lot to get to tonight. We have breaking news. The FBI's mishandling of Hillary Clinton's private email case, an explosive new development today. And Judge Moore sent an open letter to me. I will have my response straight ahead. All right, we have breaking news tonight. The Hill's John Solomon is out with yet another big blockbuster breaking news story. This time, John Solomon reveals Hillary Clinton, she may have received special treatment now from the FBI during its investigation into the handling of classified information on that server. You know, the one where she destroyed it all and bleach pit it all. Now, according to the FBI in that report, the Deputy FBI Director, Andrew McCabe, issued an email declaring that the Clinton investigation has been given, quote, special status and would be handled by a small team of high-ranking FBI officials? Wow. Also tonight, Hillary Clinton is saying the appointment of a special counsel to investigate Uranium One would be an abuse of power. Here now, national security strategist, former deputy assistant to the president, Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, this on top of the fact that we now know Comey was writing the exoneration letter before he did his investigation. This goes into him changing the words, extreme carelessness instead of gross negligence, all done on purpose. Seriously, what McNabe did here? Who are these people? Why did she get special consideration? No equal justice under the law?
That's the real question, Sean. If you or I had put top secret SAP emails onto a private server, do you think McCabe would have written emails detailing how our case was being specially handled by senior FBI agents being shut away from the average procedures inside the Bureau? I don't think so. The question is, does having the last name Clinton mean that you get a pass? You get a pass on doing things that are illegal? That you have things such as serious investigations relabeled simply matters to deflate their significance. The decisions are made before the investigation is actually executed. So we have a problem. Don't get me wrong. I've worked with thousands of FBI agents and analysts, and they're fine patriots, and they're keeping this nation safe. But at the highest level of the Bureau, we have issues, and McCabe's behavior during his wife's political campaign as an FBI senior agent actually on social media promoting his Democrat wife, his wife receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are Hatch issues as well, which raise the question of just how impartial is McCabe.
It seems not at all, especially when you put it all together in the Loretta Lynch meeting and changing the language and making decisions ahead of time. And I am told from my sources tonight, this is only going to get worse. The fix was in, as I've been saying. Now, what about the Republican House and Senate investigators today launching their effort to secure the evidence from federal agencies about this Uranium One deal, the corruption case, as they prepare to interview the FBI informant? This informant was telling the FBI a year and a half before Uranium One that there was a network in the United States. He had his own experience, he had emails, he had documents, he had tapes where he knew bribery, extortion, money laundering, racketeering was all happening. This is
not only that, Sean. I mean, you drew up your slides yesterday were magnificent. Those should be used in a court of law to prosecute everybody involved with Uranium One who undermined the American national security. But the fact here is we have a very, very serious issue of not only is the law being done, but is it seen to be done as well? Is justice blind, or is there special preferential treatment being given? This story gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And don't forget, Loretta Lynch threatened that person with loss of freedom.
A matter, not an investigation. All right, Judge Roy Moore, public letter to me. I'll respond next. Straight ahead.